When their country begins culling the population, a woman tries to escape but ends up stranded in the ocean with her unborn child. Due to food shortages, the not enough for all movement is implemented, which withholds supplies from dependent citizens. Because of this, Nico and his pregnant wife Mia hires smugglers to find a way out of the country. They're guided through a container yard at night while dodging K-9 units and helicopters on watch. However, the leader asks for more money since things have become dangerous. With no choice, the couple hesitantly gives up their wedding rings. They then board a shipping container with the rest of the refugees, praying to reach a safer land. With the door sealed, the refugees grow quiet while one of them places the news on her tablet. The news recounts how their government turned to extreme means to deal with the shortages, including the extermination of the elderly. When that didn't work, they began targeting children and pregnant women. This is why Nico, Mia, and the rest are trying to leave the country while settling in. Mia discovers a chocolate bar in Nico's bag. He tells her to keep it a secret and save it when they arrive at their destination to celebrate. With this in mind, Mia wonders if the regime will head to Ireland as well. Her husband assures her that Ireland has opposed it, so they'll be safe there. Despite this, Mia worries, since governments have been failing every day. The following day, Mia wakes up to the truck carrying their container moving. Nico then asks about their unborn child, whom he's decided to name Noah. However, Mia worries that she hasn't felt the baby kick in 2 days, so her husband checks the spot where bought. He thinks the foot is his wife, wonders how he can still be optimistic given everything they've been through. She recalls their other daughter, Uma, as she feels guilty of abandoning her by leaving the country. Nico, however, is sure that Uma isn't alive, since the military took her. Suddenly the truck stops, and the doors open, allowing dozens more refugees to storm in. The confusion leads to Mia and Nico getting separated. Realizing they are too many, the smugglers order some to get into another container truck that just arrived. They start pulling people off the container, including Nico. Despite his pleas that his wife is inside, Mia rushes to her husband, but the smugglers seal the door, thus separating the couple. Hurriedly, she peeks into a hole to see Nico getting into the other container. He then calls her phone and assures his wife that his container is just behind hers. He promises that they'll be taken into the same ship since it's the only one that's bound to sail this week. Mia begs him not to end their call, but they must conserve their batteries, so Nico promises to call soon before hanging up. Afterward, Mia hears a commotion outside as they pass through a residential area. She sees people riding for water, leading the guards to open fire. The bullets hit the container, sending the refugees into a panic. When Mia looks outside again, they're crossing another area where children and soon-to-be mothers are being detained. The scene horrifies her hours. Later, the truck stops at a checkpoint point. The refugees hold their breaths as the driver assures the officer that he's only transporting goods. Soon, the other truck where Nico is arrives as well. The officers decide to check the container, making the driver nervous when they open the doors. However, they only find a few crates. The leader goes inside to inspect while the refugees hide behind the fake wall. Suspicious, the leader instructs one of his men to head inside while he checks from the outside. The guard then shoots the end of the container, and seeing that the bullets don't come out from the area outside, the leader confirms that there's a hidden compartment. He then approaches the fake wall and orders the refugees to come out peacefully, when no one does. The leader points out that the smugglers took all their money with a promise of bringing them to a better place. However, he assures them that no such place exists, so they should surrender or they'll shoot. During this, Mia looks around and notices a gap over the crate holding the fake wall. She climbs over it and squeezes herself to hide. She then reaches her hand for another pregnant woman to hide with her, but another lady opens the fake wall to surrender immediately. The leader shoots the lady and the other officers open fire, killing everyone while Mia can only cover her mouth as she hides from the horrors after the massacre. The men remove the bodies and clean up the place just below the hidden woman. As soon as they shut the doors, the lone survivor weeps and gets her phone to send Nico a warning, hoping that he survives the checkpoint. Hours later, the truck arrives at the docks, and Mia's container is lifted onto the ship. She uses this time to call her husband, but his phone goes straight to voicemail as the sun sets. Mia notices that one of the other passengers' bags was left behind. She checks the contents, finding an electric drill, a bottle of water, a cell phone glow sticks, and a jacket. She uses the glow stick to illuminate her surroundings. She then uses the jackets as her pillow before falling asleep. Hours later, she wakes up to the ship being rocked by a heavy storm. The crew panics and desperately tries to save themselves. So MIA bangs on the walls, begging them to help her before anyone can hear her. The ship tilts and drops several containers into the water, including Mia. When the woman wakes up, she finds the container flooded with water as it aimlessly floats in the ocean along with many others. Mia checks for the ship or any land through the many holes in the walls, but to no avail. Mia searches for her phone to call for help, but its screen is cracked. She then tries the other phone she found, but it requires a pin to open the woman, then checks the crates in the container, but only finds Tupperware jackets, TVs, and earphones. As the container fills with water, she finds a discarded utility knife which she uses to open one of the locked crates, only to see bottles of vodka inside the last box is strapped upside down, so she tries to cut its straps with a knife. But it doesn't work with no choice. Mia just seals the lower holes of the container with tape to slow the water from going in. Just then she hears people screaming, so MIA looks outside and finds the container that Nico boarded nearby. She screams, hoping to call out to her husband, but the other container sinks rapidly. Desperately, Mia switches her SIM card to the other phone to call her husband, but the other container disappears into the water. Along with the screams, the woman can't do anything but mourn for her husband. Mia is convinced that she has nothing left that night, so she takes the utility knife, wondering about ending things quickly. To her surprise, her child starts kicking inside her as it's still alive.
This convinces Mia to keep living. She's later woken up to the sound of a whale nearby. Soon the sound fades, so MIA returns to her makeshift bed, only to wake up to the crate on top of her, about to fall. She gets out in time and the crate smashes against her bed, spilling hundreds of rubber duckies. The impact causes the container to sink further, and Mia can only scream before she drowns. Fortunately, this is only a nightmare. She wakes to see that it's morning, and decides to investigate the last crate. She positions another crate under it to keep it from slamming onto the floor. But when she opens it, there are only more Tupperwares inside. Knowing what items she has, Mia starts making use of them. She takes the silicone seals from the Tupperwares to block the holes and stop water from entering from the TV boxes. She finds a long CA tube, which she uses to drain water. Mia also positions the boxes to one side to create a platform for her. After setting up her place, she tries calling for help on the phone, but there's no reception with nothing else to do. She sets up her family's photos around, then inspects the bag she recovered to her surprise. Nico finally calls her, revealing that their truck driver abandoned them in the city, so it wasn't his container that she saw earlier. Mia tells them that her container is stranded in the ocean, and her husband promises to rescue her. However, hopelessness is making Mia want to give up. She tells him that she wants to see Uma, and knowing what she means. Nico begs her not to, insisting that it wasn't her fault they lost their daughter. He makes her promise not to give up and swears that he'll find her. After the call, Mia feels pain in her belly, so she begs her child not to come until Nico arrives. The woman saves the little food she has while desperately clinging to life. One night, she hears a storm brewing outside just as her water breaks. Because of this, the woman gives birth as the storm rocks the container and fills it with water. The next day, the storm has passed, and Mia cares for her daughter, Noah. However, she struggles to comfort the child, leading her to yell at Noah only, to feel guilty and apologize right after the child finally sleeps by nightfall, and the exhaustion has Mia eating the rest of her food. When her daughter wakes up, only then does she realize that she has eaten everything she had. Desperate, she starts drilling a hole on the top of the container to go out, but the drill runs out of batteries before she can complete it with the other phone damaged during the storm. Mia replaces her SIM card on her own device, hoping to contact her husband. The screen still doesn't work, and this drives the woman mad. She then starts carving the hole with the utility knife, though it leaves her hand wounded, tired, and hungry. The woman struggles to sleep through the night while she's trying to find something to eat. A whale slams onto the container, throwing the woman back and waking her child. Mia hurriedly goes to Noah and holds her as the whale continues slamming itself against them. The mother makes noise to scare it off, and thankfully it works. The next day, the woman continues sawing through the roof, but ends up breaking her blade with no food or drinkable water. Mia starts hallucinating at night. She wakes up to a paper plane landing on her. She then sees her missing daughter, Uma, who asks why she let the military take her guilty. Mia begs for forgiveness, but the child walks away. She then hallucinates her husband comforting her as she falls back to sleep. Mia wakes up to rain dripping from the holes in the roof. Quickly, she gathers Tupperwares to collect the clean water and drinks a few drops. She also tries using the tin can of food to collect the water, but seeing how it opens gives her an idea after regaining her strength. Mia squeezes the crate strap between the gaps she had already made on the roof. Then she pulls it down, forcing the piece to open the woman. Chuckles as she finally opens the container after being trapped inside for a week. She then climbs to the roof, bringing Noah with her, though she sees nothing but water around them. Finally, under the sun, both Mia and Noah relish in the warmth. The mother then cleans up after her child, but notices fish gathering around the container. Beneath them, seeing a new food source, Mia desperately attempts to catch some fish, which proves difficult. Exhausted, she lies down and sees a plane flying overhead. She rushes back inside the container and breaks a TV to grab a shard and signal the plane. However, when she climbs back up, she accidentally wounds herself with the metal edges of the hole after failing to signal the plane. Mia desperately attempts to clean and patch up her own wound. The pain causes her to pass out a few times, but the woman pushes on, determined to survive for her child. She then spends the evening braiding the earphones to create a net, which she uses to finally catch fish the following day with food and water. Now available, Mia starts taking more steps towards survival, including writing SOS messages in Tupperwares and throwing them in the water, hoping that someone will find them one night. She shows Noah their family photos while telling her stories about their lives before she adds that Noah is named after Mia's grandmother, whose name comes from Noah's Ark, where the family survived for days in the ocean. When they get to Uma's photo, Mia recalls that her daughter wanted to be a pilot. She recounts that when the regime took over, they were forced to stay inside, while only Nico could go out to get food. However, Uma wanted to go outside to play with her paper planes. Mia pied her daughter for being cooped up, so she allowed Uma. They were only outside for 5 minutes before the military took her daughter away. This is why Mia blames herself for her daughter's fate later that night. Noah starts coughing as the air gets colder, so MIA creates a makeshift fire amp. Not long after Mia wakes up to the sound of thuds, she goes outside to check and finds that it's only one of her Tupperwares floating back to them. Suddenly, her phone rings and it's Nico calling. Mia is excited to hear his voice, but her husband regretfully tells her that he won't be able to save her. He snuck into a ship to rescue her, but was discovered and shot. He barely got away, but is now bleeding to death. Mia mourns as her husband begs her to continue fighting for her life. However, he starts regretting his words and admits that she was right. He was too optimistic to give him a glimmer of hope. Mia tells him that she'd already given birth to Noah. Nico is delighted that his child is alive, so MIA lets Noah hear her father's voice. Moments later, her phone warns that the battery is low, so Mia and Nico declare their love for each other before their final call ends. The woman then lets out her tears, knowing that she will never be reunited with her husband again as her tears die down. Later, Mia reveals the chocolate bar in her coat, which she'd been saving for their reunion. However, she still chooses not to eat it, clutching on the hope that she'll eventually reach land with her child. Days pass, and the container is halfway full of water, forcing the mother and child to live on the top. Instead, she has built a crib for Noah and set up floaters using Tupperwares to her. Surprise, a seagull lands on the container before flying off. This confirms to Mia that land is nearby, so she continues working throughout the night. Suddenly, one of the plugs she made releases, introducing water into the container. Faster, Mia goes back inside to fetch Uma's photo, but also realizes that the chocolate bar has fallen inside. She tries swimming for it, but the container sinks rapidly, and her foot gets caught in wires. She dives to free herself, but struggles as the ship goes underwater while Noah's crib floats away. After another desperate attempt, Mia frees herself and then swims back to the surface, but can't find Noah anywhere. Instead, the whale circles the woman, making her worry about where her child could be. The whale soon moves away and circles Noah's floating crib, splashing the child with water. This wakes her up, so Noah starts crying and alerts Mia on where she is. The mother desperately goes against the waves and thankfully reaches the child. She holds on to the crib as the two float aimlessly in the ocean. In the morning, Mia releases fish parts to attract seagulls while assuring Noah that they'll find land. She also apologizes for trying to take her life days before and thanks her daughter for giving her strength to live on. Soon seagulls arrive and circle them. This allows a woman on a nearby fishing boat to notice the gathering birds, so they rush to the area, but only find Noah's crib. The woman and her family retrieve the child, then see the long line of wires attached to the crib. The woman pulls on it, and Mia's body is dragged to the surface by her wrist. They pull her onto the boat, and after several attempts to resuscitate her, Mia starts coughing as the mother recovers. The woman gives her baby back to her while her father calls for help, seeing that she's finally on her way to land. Mia cries, eager to leave the deadly water she's been stranded on for weeks. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.